So, a couple of days ago, an individual who'd been trading with us for a little while said his goodbyes in the chat roll and left the trading room. He'd been struggling for a while, I guess, but he'd been getting some guidance from the best of us, so I'd assumed he was going to be okay, that he was making some progress. But as it turned out, he was never able to reconcile what he was seeing in the charts with what he was seeing in the chat roll. And subsequently, he missed out on his light bulb moment and he ultimately left feeling that trading wasn't for him. This was on Tuesday of this week. And I recall after that session feeling pretty despondent, actually, as a result of that exchange. It got me to thinking that there are tremendous odds against each of us in the room to even be in the room in the first place. We all individually needed to recognize that the key to happiness is financial freedom, to then identify trading Forex as a means by which we might be able to enable this freedom, to take a left turn in thinking that binary options might be the answer, as I think we all did, and yet find the sanctuary of this room before the binary options journey had bruised us so badly that we were too disillusioned or too disenfranchised to even look for this room in the first place. To do all that, to get through the trial, and ultimately get unfettered access to these golden goose strategies, and probably more important than anything else, to be surrounded by this constant cheerleading section of like-minded individuals willing each other to be successful every single day. To get through all that and then give up, I mean, I hate to see people give up on their dreams at the best of times, but when you're this close and you know you're that close, it's a thought that I can't reconcile. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to take a few minutes to put together a short video to ensure that the next person to feel that way has something they can refer to, a simple, effective strategy where the success has been evidenced, that they can effectively put to work within moments of watching the video. So that's what we're going to try and do today. However, in order to address the issue effectively, I first wanted to take a moment to try to empathize with what would drive someone to cancel their subscription within touching distance of their goals, which is in effect what happened to this guy on Tuesday. And all I could put it down to, and please accept that this is just my personal humble opinion, is that it must be pretty overwhelming for a new person trying to make their way in the room to be told, on the one hand, to review the approved strategies on the website, but on the other hand, see a chat roll running away on a daily basis with discussions that are aligned in no way whatsoever to the strategies that they've just been told to read up on. That, and being bombarded with thoughts on candle speed and fake signals versus real signals and wicks and caps and lows and declarations of winning trades in situations where scoring seems unachievable for any mortal hand. All that must be super overwhelming for someone who hasn't yet even worked out what kind of trader they are. It's overwhelming to me, and I like to think that I know what I'm doing. So, if you're new, even if you're not that new, but you feel that you're not quite realizing your potential for whatever reason, this video is a moment for you to take a breath, hit reset, while I provide you with some tangible evidence which will hopefully convince you of the merits of just getting to grips with one proven strategy at a time, rather than attempting to master everything at once. I'm going to keep it super simple and strip it right back to the basics. I'm not going to be talking about caps or wicks or speed of candles or any of that super fashionable stuff that's taking over the chat right now. It will be unglamorous stuff, but it will make you money. So I was prompted following what happened on the Tuesday of this week to set up an account on the Wednesday, which for the purpose of this video, I decided I would trade for the remainder of the week. And this account is what we are looking at now. Now, the objective of this account was that it should only trade one single strategy, with nothing fancy. That means there's no stacking, there's no long-term trades, there's no reversals, there's nothing like that. It's just straight up one strategy fundamentals. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is by showing you the results right here in the screen to show you that it works. And what I'm about to show you will hopefully evidence that. So the strategy that I decided to showcase in this account is the 5-minute trending pink. I think that it is a great trending strategy. If you haven't met me in the room yet, you probably won't know that I am a trend trader. I have a low risk tolerance. So this strategy is one of my core strategies. I wouldn't say that it's a very fashionable strategy. It's definitely not something I would say is in vogue right now. In fact, I was looking at the strategies page and I don't even think that it's on there anymore. Well, I can see that it's not on there anymore. So you'll have to take my word for it when I tell you that back in the good old days, when I was a young'un, this was an endorsed strategy. This strategy is old school, but I am a firm believer that there ain't no school like the old school. Now these days I trade maybe 3 or 4 strategies. I trade ATM, I trade Golden Road. Julian's reversal strategy is a nice strategy that I'm starting to implement. So why am I showing you this strategy over the others? Well, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because the other strategies that I use pretty heavily are already covered pretty comprehensively in other videos by heavy hitting MTs like Benny and Jasran and Julian, but mainly because I think of all the endorsed strategies that are available, this one is one of the simplest to implement and carries the lowest exposure to risk. And it comes with a really short learning curve. And if you use it correctly, you will see positive results pretty quickly. So let's look at how it works. I don't record sessions, so unfortunately I don't have my own charts to show you. So I'm just going to hijack somebody else's video and hope they don't mind. It will work. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at these charts, and I've chosen something that's pretty old here actually, because the color palettes have changed since this video was shot. But that doesn't really matter. The tenets of the strategy remain the same. So what we're looking for when we're looking at the charts using this strategy, first of all, is your prep work. And in your prep work, what you want to be doing is ensuring that you get a good understanding of the trends of each of the pairs and a good understanding of what your bias is in each of the pairs. I'm looking at these now, and I like what I'm seeing in the GJ. We don't actually trade the GJ anymore. This has been superseded by the US dollar and the Canadian dollar. But I'm liking what I'm seeing in these charts. So if we look at the daily, this is the daily chart here. We have very strong signals in what has been an uptrend, which is narrowing. It's starting to dip down, or the resistance is starting to dip down on the strength of these MIMs. So I like that. That's giving me a bias for down. We have that further supplemented by this 4-hour chart where we have a definitive downtrend with a little arrow here beginning to form on the last candle. And that's further supplemented by a very strong signal on the 1 hour, again a definitive downtrend. So my bias, just looking at the long terms, is that I'm already liking this to short. We look at the 15 minutes, it's not necessarily corroborating what we've seen in the long terms. The last signal is an up signal. However, we do have a recent cross here. And when I see a cross, I like to treat a cross like a bonus arrow, a bonus signal. Because typically what a cross says to me is, if you get a cross forming downward, that's suggesting to me that we are in for a little bit of a downturn. And similarly, if the cross is forming upward, then we're good for some longs. So although the signal is pointing up, this cross here is kind of reinforcing my bias that I got from the long terms. And then that takes us to the 5 minutes. Now the 5 minutes is where most of your grunt work is going to take place on this strategy. The strategy is called 5-minute trending pinks for a reason, because guess what? We're interested in pinks that back up our trend and bias. So we see here, going back an hour ago or over an hour ago, we have our first trending pink signal, which points down the way we wanted it to. It's super generous. Our next signal, super generous, and we would have won those trades on a 5 TP. Here we have another pink is going in the other direction. We don't like that. We don't like that pink because it's going against the trend, and what you'll notice quite often is that pinks which go against the trend tend to struggle. So using this strategy, we would not have been interested in this pink and wouldn't have taken it. But what I'm absolutely in love with is this pink right here. It's a strong signal on a candle which is forming, and trading this strategy, I wouldn't even wait for that candle to form. As soon as this signal shows its beautiful face, I'm already buying it roses, booking cinema tickets. When this momentum goes red, I'm all over that like stink on a monkey. So that's pretty much a golden trade for me. Now, if I look at UJ, this signal has caught my eye here. If I look at UJ, let's go to the long terms. We see it's an upward trend. The last arrow is an up. The 4 hour is a pretty strong signal up, although it looks like they're stuttering a little bit and there may be a little bit of a delay in their impact. The 1 hour signal is down, but the 15-minute is up and it's following a blue arrow. So actually, the story here is sound. Although the trend is down in the main, this signal here, because it's supplemented by these other signals, I wouldn't mind taking that. However, the difference between these two arrows is because the story is so strong on this arrow, I wouldn't even wait for the arrow to close. On this signal, I would definitely wait for the arrow to close to see if the 5-minute signal survives. Once it survives, I'll jump in and I'll take that. Now, disclaimer, the trades that you see in this account, only 5% of those trades, if that, are based off of signals like this. Most of the signals that are taken in that account, because I want to keep it honest for the purpose of this video, are taken off of signals like this, and signals like this, and signals like this. And as with any other strategy, you really want to be jumping in when you have momentum telling you it's okay to jump in. So you want to take this down, you want your momentum to be red. You want to take it up, you want your momentum to be green. So that's about it. It's really that simple. I can appreciate that there is a natural tendency to want to overthink a strategy, to greet simplicity with skepticism and want to make it more complicated than it is. Please do not do that. If what I've told you seems simple, that's because that's the point. It is simple. And you see the results. By keeping it simple, just no frills trading, this one simple strategy, what we've done is we've created an account where 99% of the trades are consistently making us money. Now I know the eagle-eyed detectives amongst you will be looking at this bad boy and thinking, well, Ghost, what's this? If your process is so simple, how come you lost a trade? Okay, let's do a quick autopsy on this trade. So every single trade I take has a story. I can explain why I took every trade and why they did or didn't come through. And in this case, firstly, this is not a bad trade. I actually love this trade. Now, like I said, I don't record my sessions, so I can't show you the charts which drove this trade, but I can talk you through it and you'll have to take my word for it. So this arrow right here is the candle. So did I say this arrow right here? I meant this candle. This candle right here is where the 5-minute trending signal would have appeared. This candle was when I took the trade. Now earlier I said I have not been stacking. So you're probably wondering why there are 2 exits on this trade. The reason why there are 2 exits is because I really liked the story. So what I decided to do was place a trade and take 75% of the trade value out in 5 pips, which is here, and leave 25% of the trade in for 10 pips or more, depending on how the trade looked when it started approaching 10 pips. If it looked like it had more in it, I can always push it out and push it out until I say, okay, that's enough. So let's look what happened. The trade kicked off, everything's looking peachy. We get to the 5 pips without any kind of hiccups. And then it kind of teases me a bit, it languishes, it doesn't really want to give me the good stuff. And then around this candle here is when I decided I'm going to jump into the chat role, because there was an interesting conversation happening where people were talking about vision boards and short-term goals, which I'm a huge believer in. And let me tell you, there are some people out there with some very aggressive vision boards. One of them was making some very strong claims about how much his portfolio would be worth by the time his birthday comes around, and his birthday is the same as my birthday, so I knew he didn't have long. So I jumped in to, just kind of offer some encouragement and stuff, and before you know it, the trade spikes in the wrong direction. So in this candle, we see that it's moving against us. It's pretty rapid, being as we're looking at 1-minute charts, and you see it kind of makes up, well, more than 15 pips. This is like a 20 pip move in about 2 minutes. So it's pretty sudden. Had I been paying attention to the trade and managing the trade instead of gassing in the chat roll, I would have seen what was happening in this candle and done an assessment, looked at the long terms, which hadn't changed, looked at the 15 minutes, which also hadn't changed, and taken that as authorization to revisit the stop loss in this trade and extend it by another 15 or 20 pips. So you'll see from time to time I talk about stop losses in the chat roll. If your trade is moving against you in the short term but your story is still good, I would always suggest looking at the possibility of extending your stop loss. It's something that I do all the time. So I would have put another 15-20 pips on this and we would have been good, because we can see when the stop loss kicks in, actually there is no further movement to that side, and almost immediately and almost spitefully the market turns in the other direction, and it would have given us what we were looking for here as a minimum. But as you can see, that signal was much more generous than the minimum, and let's see what we could have got out of it. Come on. Over 100 pips. So, not to call anyone out, but Kendall, Benny, I love you guys, but you owe me 100 pips. So you might want to start thinking about how you're going to pull that together. So, in conclusion, we can say that we lost this trade due to me taking my eye off the ball, chatting when I should have been managing the trade. However, this trade is kind of the exception to the rule. For the most part, when I trade this strategy, because I trade with the trend in my sales, I could take a trade at 9 and take a nap at 1 minute past and sleep like a baby with a belly full of breast milk, because I know that when I wake up, that trade is going to be over the line, washed, hosed and green. So what I want you to do is I want you to take this account visual as a representation of the strength of the strategy on which I base my own foundation. And arguably it's yielded 100% success in 2.5 days. And even if you take this trade out, which I screwed up, it's still a 99 percentile. And I don't know about you, but I'll take a 99 percentile all day long. Now, this is the good bit. Here's what it means to our bottom line. Just trading this no-frills strategy with no funny stuff, no stacking and whatnot, compounding it each day like you're supposed to, in 2.5 days, this account is ready to give us a return on our initial investment to the tune of 15%. You see that we start out at 100K on Wednesday, plus the 104 of this initial trade. So it's 100K starting capital. And we are good to the tune of 115,000 on Friday. So let's go ahead and put that in real terms. This isn't 15% in 2.5 days because the session only lasts a couple of hours a day. It's about 5 hours. My son and daughter get in from school around about the same time as happy hour kicks off at 11, and I like to catch up with them when they get in, so it shortens the trading day a little bit for me. So it's about 5 hours all told in an unremarkable week. It's not an election week, it's not a Brexit week, there's no economic crashes. It was just the usual Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Now, what I'm hoping this video will do is build a case for coming back to the basics, the proven endorsed strategies, as opposed to the unproven winged unicorn strategies that seem to have gripped the imagination of the masses lately. I would hope that you think that 15% ROI in 5 hours is enough for you, because I think it's enough for most people. In fact, I would struggle to think of anyone who wouldn't accept 15% ROI in 5 hours. If you walked into any Forex fund at 7 a.m. and said, hey, my name is Hans, Amo, the Joker, Khadija, and I trade Forex part-time. Give me the keys to your portfolio and I will grow it by 15%. And by the way, I'll do it using one single strategy and I'm going to do that all by lunchtime. I'll tell you what, they'll have you in a straitjacket by breakfast, because the kind of returns that are easily achievable in this room, they are insane in the real world. They just don't compute. So this is the message that I want to leave you with. Don't let the fear of missing out dissuade you from your course. Don't abandon your plan on the whim of others. If you see another strategy out there that sounds exciting because somebody's claiming that they're making ridiculous gains out of it, let the pros in the lab, well, not in the lab, but in the lab coats like Benny and Mosh figure it out. If there's anything in it, MT will endorse it for you. And then if you want to try it out, by all means, knock yourself out. As long as you have your everyday money strategy working for you, that's the important thing. Stick to your main strategy. And whatever you do, do not undermine your own successes by comparing them to anyone else's. I saw someone respond to someone remarking that they'd made over 1,000 pips and tens of thousands of dollars in a session by saying, I've only made 40 pips today, I must be doing something wrong. Like, what? On 40 pips a day, don't you know that you can retire your whole family? On 40 pips a week, you can retire your whole family. You're going to make it. As a collective, you're going to make it. You might not all make it at the same speed as everyone else, but if you just start trading with one strategy at a time, I promise you, you're going to make it. So it's like I said, if you're new, or if you've been working at this for a while and you're just still waiting for that light bulb moment, just hit the reset button for a minute and ask yourself the question, what kind of trader am I? And find the right strategy for you and just focus on that one thing and nothing else. You don't need to understand wicks and candle speeds and news. You just need one strategy that you can depend on to make your everyday money. Before I go, I want to share a quick memory with you. Back when I was younger, I used to practice the style of Kung Fu pretty seriously. And once or twice a year, there would be a national tournament where the strongest competitors from each of the different schools up and down the country would participate. Now, one of the last times that I would ever attend this tournament, I remember this quiet young guy who stands out in my mind. And the reason he stands out is because, to all intents and purposes, he turned up at the biggest event in the calendar, appearing to know only how to do one kick, which was a side kick. Now, there must be at least 50 different types of kicks alone in each discipline. So to turn up only knowing how to do one thing, that was pretty strange. And as a result, not one of us could take this poor guy seriously. We were like, who is this guy? Does he know where he is? Is this a joke? And we reached the end of the day and only 2 guys are left standing out of maybe 80 or 100 competitors. And one of these 2 people is this guy. But now no one's laughing at this guy anymore, because by now it's become obvious to everyone in the room that this young man has figured out something that no one else in the room has figured out. And that is this. To win, he didn't need to know everything. He just needed to know one thing really, really well. To know it inside and out, back to front, in the knowledge that that one thing would turn out to make him unstoppable. I sincerely want the penny to drop for you. I want you to get your light bulb moment, but it's never going to come for you if you run around from strategy to strategy, chasing what everyone else is doing in the room. Just take a minute, ask yourself, who am I as a trader? What is the strategy that matches my goals and ambition and my appetite for risk? And then just go to the strategy page and choose the strategy that matches your style and make that your one thing. Trade that and nothing else for at least a couple of weeks until you absolutely own it, and eventually you will be unstoppable. That's all I wanted to say to you today. I'll see you in the room. Good luck. God bless. Ghost out.